Hello and welcome. I'm Radhaa,
And I'm Danielle.
and we've come together to flesh out some common terms you may hear in the spiritual community, but are not so common in the mainstream. Today, we are going to talk about the term inversions.
Inversion, invertedness. Oh my gosh, Rada, this is a big one. And it's like Rada and I talk so much on this topic because it's so connected in many ways. So, Rada, what direction should we lead into? Because I am a bit overwhelmed with the idea of this topic, to be honest with you, because it's pretty deep. What did you say?
I'm just going to jump right in, if you don't mind, and just
Go
say
for
that we live in an inverted world, straight up, no sweet talking around it.
it.
The world we live in, Mother Gaia herself is not inverted. The inhabitants that have come here and are have really created systems, and we're talking about systems in every possible way. The food system, like every industry has inversions. And then
Right.
you can go as deep as our DNA, like we've been
Right.
inverted from the very core of our being. But that doesn't mean we can't do a correction, because many of us starseeds are actually here on this big mission to help recode, right? So we are actually recoders of this world, and we are, we're needed here. So inversions, if you want to just talk about that, it is okay. So say something is organic, right?
Right.
The natural flow of energy. It's the natural architecture of the divine. And so, what's happened in this particular realm on this particular earth is that natural flow energy and in architecture of the divine has been, it's like concave, it's inverted. What the natural flow has been interrupted artificially.
Right.
And so what it does is it creates a new system, an inverted system. When everything has been built on inversion in this world, known and unknown, seen and unseen, hidden, secret,
Mm-hmm.
those versions manifest in every facet of our life: entertainment industry, the food industry, school industry,
Medical industry.
medical
Yeah.
industry.
Yeah. You
So
know what?
go ahead.
No, I'm so sorry. You go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
So it's funny because as you're talking, all I can see is enslavement and spiritual sickness because this type of distortion really, really eats at the core of our essence and it hits us in so many ways, Rada. I mean, these categories are pretty broad, but in the theory of in the reality of it all, we are truly energetic beings in our physical, mental, emotional, spiritual bodies, astral bodies. We are being attacked in ways that society is waking up to understand. They're being brought to the forefront through Netflix documentaries, spiritual retreats that people are, connecting and trying to educate people, to create these pillars of like us as light beings, coming together as humans rather than seeing people as objects and money. It's like, in theory, this inverted system is truly is corrupted in many, many, many ways. And anybody would be a fool to, and with respect, but to kind of put a blind eye to that. And
Yeah.
we're seeing that now being brought on the forefront of even mainstream media of truth coming out. So it's a really interesting time to be alive. As some people would say, I just feel like this anti-human thing is really, really creating, spiritual. It's a spiritual battle,
It
truly.
really is. Yeah, and I really like what you said about anti-human, because that's exactly what inversion is. So our,
Yeah.
humans are organic, they're organic as natural beings. I'm not saying that they nothing happened prior that kind of made us into these humans, but our bodies are organic, our systems are organic. We are actually in harmony with Mother Earth. We're organic. So
Right.
the way that everything is running, it is actually indeed anti-human. Dare I say the truth? Because
Right.
if you think about it, if the food is anti-human,
Right.
it's made to kill, right? It's a slow kill, it's a painful kill, it's cancer, diabetes, it's heart disease, it's many things, but they're not, those things are actually not organic, right? They're not
Right.
organic who we really are. Um, you can go into technologies, you can go into so many facets, and like the medical industry, like they're big pushers of inorganic, of the inorganic. They want, and actually DNA modifications. I mean, it's really, when you really stop and think about the inversion that's actually going on between 20 and now 2022, at the end, we're at the end of 2022. It's profound how much of the inversion was able to be infiltrated into
Right.
the world, into our body, physical body. And so that leads, and why, and you think about it, how could this possibly happen? How could this happen at this grand level? And then you realize, well, the programming has been inverted. Since you've been a kid, it's been inverted. History has been inverted. Like, really, none of the history has really been truthful. It's always been written by the conquerors. They paid out people to write. That's why writing is so powerful, because it is history. And that's why, what we do at Radhaa Publishing House is we're rewriting history by telling our truthful stories, right? So we're bringing the organic back onto the timeline, where the inversion is really the dark, it's a black goo of this world, of this universe, multiverse. It's the infection. It is an infection. Inversions are an infection, and the infection has spread so far and so wide and touched everyone. I mean, even us, but we're quite aware of it. And the thing is, when you're aware of it, wow, you can do something about it.
Yes.
We've all been infected. No one has come unscathed, untouched, uninfected. We can reverse this infection. And so what we're doing is really, at a very individual level, is choosing whether we continue to be more inverted and possibly leading to death, and more inversion even after death, or do we choose to really stand and continue to walk, to say, no, these inversions are not right. This is not right. Are we going to choose a path of the divine? That's just the bottom line.
Yeah, it's so important, Radha, right now for people to trust their inner voice. And we just recently talked on downloads, and this actually ties in very well, because a download could be something wonderful that connects you to the divine, or it could connect you to the non-organic, so to speak, time. And the truth is, organic is always going to feel like a higher frequency. You're going to feel like, there's a level of trust, and it's like things just divinely, you're so guided. And in return, and with inversion, it's actually the complete opposite. And the downloads that you've received at that point are more in the category of, like a deceitful you know, fear-based mind control type of environment. And what's difficult is when you don't listen to your inner self, the influence that that power has is actually pretty powerful. And I don't believe that it's more powerful than the divine, but I do believe, again, because we are at that point in time where spirituality is, you know, there's a little bit of a quote unquote spiritual warfare going on. It's so important. And people say, well, you have to, you know, be connected to your discernment. And I don't feel that's talked about enough. And so when you really start to understand the inversion and how deep this goes, instead of burying your head in the sand and thinking, oh, this is so scary, it's like, no, this gives you an opportunity to feel empowered, overcome that fear, you know, educate, team up together, build your community, build yourself up, and feel, you know, that inner power. And that is exactly, you know, what inversion is attacking, is that inner, you know, that power that you have. It wants your power, you know. So I don't know, I don't really like this conversation, to be honest with you, because it's quite unfortunate that we are in a system, you know, a program where good people, you know, are being tormented, and there's a lot of suffering going on in this world. And this is why I love healing, because it helps you mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, in so many ways that it just like unravels. And I'm always using that onion example because it's so true. I mean, if you were empowered, there any unethical behavior is going to, you know, you're not going to stand for it. You can be like, that is not right, and I'm not for that, and I'm going to do something about it. And that's where we become more empowered and sovereign. So the inversion, I would definitely encourage people to look into this further, and, you know, help your community step up. You be a steward of, you know, for people who don't have a voice, and share your voice. You know, it's a little scary, but it's not like, you know, it's like we're all gonna die to be honest with you, eventually. So it's like, let's, you know, let's rise above this, because, you know, this whole era, you know, we're at a time where the tides are shifting. And yeah, this inversion is a behavior that is
perpetuated. It's perpetuated.
Yeah. And it's completely, mostly about, you know, control and power, but it's an imbalanced, it's not organic.
Well, it's also it's even more than that, because it's also about food source, right? So there are beings that are sourcing people by using this inversion system. Sourcing people, they're sourcing soul. They're harvesting heart, mind, body, and soul. And when you think about this war that we're in, because it is a war, it is a war for the soul. And that's why people will mock you, they will laugh at you, they will taunt you, and they will put you down when you bring that up, that, you know, don't do this, this is part of the inverted system. And then you will die, and then you will see that if you're psychic, that their soul has been harvested. And, you know, you'll try to,
you know what? So sorry, I'm like, you're talking, and you know what this reminds me of? Have you seen that movie Juniper Ascending with Mila Kunis? It's like literally like that. If no one's seen that movie, you have to go watch it. Like, it's so this, you know, that is literally like our reality. It's not funny, but it's like, wow, see, guys, it's right there in your face, and you act like it's a story.
That's the whole point. That's the whole point of the entertainment. Yeah. That's why I left, because I wanted to make film and story that would be inspiring people to come back to their heart, mind, body, and soul, to inspire them to realign to their divine self. But I was, you know, met by monsters who had other ideas about what kind of content should go out, and very controlling and very dominating, and absolutely unable to, like, it's like a law. There's a law in Hollywood, and it's a law that you can't bring light to Hollywood as of now, as of 2022. But that will change. The gatekeepers will change. You know, the old paradigm is actually dying, and the inversions itself are dying. If you want to get deep, let me just tell you this. You know, about 6 years ago, my great 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 grandfather Don Pedro came to me and he told me there would be a timeline split, and that there would be an organic timeline and there would be an inverted timeline, and that the
Wow.
inverted timeline was going to be the infected. There are many 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 infected now, and that they were going down a timeline, but there was a black hole then, and he called it Shakti, the divine mother Shakti was coming back, and she was eating that timeline,
Wow.
literally. And so this inversion has had its heyday. We're at the climax of this inversion. I know people wanted to go on and on, and I asked, well, how long does this last? And he said, you know, time isn't what it is. You know, it isn't what it is for me, what it is for you. You know, you think in years, you think in minutes, you think in hours. But the timeline is currently being eaten at the end. And all the people who are on that timeline are going to go into that black hole. Now, there are souls that will be recycled and come back again and get another chance. They will be resurrected because they're not innately at the soul level inverted. But those souls that are innately at the soul level inverted, who have been the harvesters, the feeders, and the parasites, you know, to humanity, they won't come back. They won't come back. And that's a harsh truth. And you don't have to believe me. I really don't actually care. My
Right.
You know, I share not because I'm trying to convince anybody. I'm simply sharing a conversation I had that was very intimate with my, you know, my beloved ancestor who's on the other side, and who's quite prolific and comes into my life and shares these things with me. So you know, I don't even have that audience to influence, you know. So it's to me, I'm just sharing. I'm a humble woman living a simple life. I'm just sharing what about the inversion, because you know, some people might want to know more about it. What does this mean on the bigger picture? Where does it lead us? Those that have followed the inverted path will be led to a dark, you know, this dark black hole. It doesn't mean the end of them, because all souls have a chance, and right now there is no other time. You know, the split is real, so you have to choose on a really deep soul level. Is it worth it for me, really deeply? Like, am I willing to go into that black hole? Because what happened, I can't tell you what happens when you go there and you get, you know, recycled. I can't tell you that process, but I can tell you that it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy. You may have another chance if you have to have at least 60% light inside of you. And if you do, then you won't. There's no point, because where we're going is a whole nother realm. We have been living in this inverted world, and we are not the only ones. Let me tell you, brothers and sisters, we are a galaxy, a multiverse. There are many, 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 many more than we think and what we've been told. We've been sheltered, spoiled children living in an inverted world with inverted masters. And until we get our heads out of our butts and realize that there's so much more than we can ever imagine, and I want to be part of that, don't you?
Yeah, and thank you for saying this, Radha, because this is something, you know, you and I have talked about personally, and I love it when you share the story about your ancestor, Don Pedro, because he's definitely a special person. And it's just interesting that this is happening in our time, because it's in a way I've learned a lot, and intuitively I do feel truth behind this. So guys, take this message, you know, and sit with it, and I thank you for being vulnerable to share this information, because you do have a very special way of explaining it in a way that an average person, but also someone who understands this already, can understand. So this is really good that you're sharing, and I'm grateful that you're able to deliver this message. And it's true, everything that this inverted system is, yeah, it's there's already the Christ consciousness, light coming in.
Mm.
And in order to, go to another dimension, we would be, completely naive to think, and like, we're the only ones. And I know a lot of people understand this and feel that. So as a soul, I do feel there are levels of evolution. So could you talk on a little bit of the era we're in right now with inversion, with Kali Luga and all that? Because I feel this plays an important role in people understanding.
Absolutely. So we're really at the end of Kali Yuga, and it does get worse before it gets better. Let me just say that, because I don't believe in sugarcoating things, because we have to be strong. We actually have to be spiritually strong. So what does that mean? It means all the inversions are coming to light. I repeat, all inversions are coming to light. That means everything will be illuminated that is distorted, and people will perhaps, lose their mind if they are not centered within themselves. And you can see that all around you. People are literally they're not emotionally stable, they're not mentally stable. And the bipolar thing is actually, it's the duality. So when people say bipolar, it's actually their polarizations are not integrated. So what they need to do is actually more shadow work, more healing. Shamans say that mental illness is the illness of the soul. It's not mental. It's your soul is sick. That's why it's manifesting in this way. If your soul wasn't sick and inverted, it wouldn't be that way. And that's not to put anybody down, because I've struggled with depression. I've had my own darkness, my own dark night of the soul. I have had inversions. I was filled with inversions at one time in my life living in Hollywood, okay? So please, like, I'm never here to be like, I'm better than you. Like, that's not my point, because we have a very short amount of time, before these things shift really big. And I at this point, I really don't care. Like, what's the point of pretending like it's not happening when it is? We have a very short time to get our shit together. And that means we have to do the work. We have to face our shadow. We have to do the healing. We need to seek the divine, and we must take these inversions and find the divine inside of us, and to clear these out. So I've dedicated over a decade of my life doing this, because I understood that that I was covered in inversions up and down. And I knew that it was actually killing me. I was getting sick, very sick, ill. And part of that inversion for me was having breast implants, because that's not natural. That wasn't organic. That was a man-made idea of what sex and beauty was and what value was. And it wasn't my true, divine state of being. And so I succumbed to that inversion. And that doesn't make me wrong or bad. That just means I had that experience until I realized, whoa, this is inverted. This is not who I am. This isn't what I want. And this is making me sick and killing me. So I had to get rid of that inversion in my physical body, so my body could heal and come back to its original blueprint. And that's on the soul level too. So it's mental, emotional, physical, spiritual, and even sexual, you guys. I'm talking sexual, because you may meditate every day and do all the things, but if you're hooked on porn, you're living in an inverted world. Your root chakra is connected to that inversion. And these are our downfall. You know, we have to strengthen our chakras and strengthen our integrity. And I'm not coming from a place of I'm better than you and I'm perfect, because I always say I am not perfect. In all the books we do, I let you know I've fallen, and I've fallen hard, and I share that not for pity, but to let you understand you can fall and you can rise. And when you rise, it will be better than you ever imagined. So I share that, and I share my deep vulnerability because I want people to know you can change your life when you choose to, and it can change in ways that you can't possibly imagine, and that it's better than you could ever imagine. So we are able to conquer these inversions, and we have to start from within ourselves first.
Yes, that is so wonderfully said. Thank you for telling us, your testament to your experience. I mean, that blows my mind. I don't even know what to say after that, but I really feel in the world of inversion, one of the things that I would definitely recommend, especially for individuals who are pulled into the whole, overly, let's just put it out there, like porn industry, for example. And that's an important one for a lot of men and women, because sex is sacred. And when you're watching porn, it's actually hooking into you. And that's a whole different topic. Those are archonic energies, AI, etc. However, it's still nonetheless inverted. And that's not organic, because the true blueprint of a woman, let's be real, most people don't have sex like that. So it's in a form of, distraction and entertainment. And it's just not natural. So yeah, it's such a good example when you bring that up. And I just feel like I want to highlight on that, because that is a low key, like something people don't talk about, or they kind of like, because it's personal, it's private.
Don't, because that's actually one of the biggest inversions that they've used as a way to control the divine masculine. In many ways, they have hurt divine masculine. I mean, so many ways, just as they have divine feminine. They're all constantly putting the message, you're not good enough, 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 you're not good enough. That's all they do. Think about it. All the magazines. I used to buy Vogue and all these magazines since I was like, 13 or 14 years old. I was obsessed. And every time, all the women were stick thin. And I mean, I was always curvy. Even as a young girl, I had hips, I had things that I didn't see in that magazine. And I thought, wow, how am I ever going to find love? How am I ever going to be lovable if I don't look like this? It's so distorted. It inverted me at such a young age. But for men, they think that's what sex is. So they think that, this crazy sex where these porn stars are shooting up, they're literally doing meth probably, and alcohol, and a concoction of Viagra, that's not normal. They're doing all kinds of crazy things, and they usually die really young. A lot of these porn stars, they don't even make it past 30 years old. So if that's your, what you look to for sex, that's really, and it's really leaving you to be addicted to something that doesn't exist. It's soulless. There's demons in that sex. You're using drugs. There's no honor. Where is the honor?
Right.
In that, and where's the soul? You've lost your soul. You're using drugs, and you're seeing somebody else as a piece of meet,
Right.
where you're disconnecting from the humanness of our very own being. So what happens is when you watch that and you ejaculate to that, your semen is so powerful, you know, that you're actually ejaculating. You're almost like that's your offering to the demon, and that demon feeds off of that, and then it's like, I want more, I want more, I want more, and that
Right.
leads big problems, especially if you want to have a divine union, because you can't have a divine union and have that energy. It's not sustainable, you know?
Right. Yeah, and you know what? This is why if you could put that aside and you tune in, you can actually tap into that heart space. And for men and women, it goes both ways. You can actually, and we were talking about this recently, but you can tune into the person who you're meant to be with and have the best imaginative, masturbation session. Just it'll blow your mind. And you'll feel it through your entire body. And that feeling, the porn disconnects you to that feeling because your heart's not in it. Your soul is literally, it's like, it's just physical. It's a different type of orgasm. So I'm not sure how we got too far off on going too far deep down that, but it's really important because inversion is everywhere. And I definitely feel that the equivalent to these behaviors, it's just the bottom line is control, power. So take control, but back control of your life, take control of your imagination, your creative power, your sexual power, however you see it. Eat healthier. Actually take the time to do some research on what is for your highest and best good, because I guarantee you'll find inversions in every category of your life. And it's not, I'm not saying that anyone's a bad person for, having watched porn. I mean, I know I have before in the past, but at the end of the day, we all have, gone down holes where we're like, oh wait, why am I doing this? This isn't normal. This isn't healthy. It's okay. Like, we're human. We get exposed to these things, but we have to stop and think, okay, is my soul, is this what my soul wants?
Yeah. Is this feeding my soul? Am I feeling expansion or am I feeling retraction? Because at the end of a porn binge, you're not gonna feel expanded in your heart. You're gonna feel retracted. So you have to just sort of, without self-punishment, because that's not what it's about, at all. There's really none of that here. We're having a real conversation to really bring light to this whole situation, because it goes way beyond that. It's in the food we eat. They put chemicals and plastic in our salt and they try to put plastic in everything, and they try to put plastic in. They try to get people addicted to plastic women. That's the thing now, is like the Kardashian plastic look. If this is the standard of beauty, look like you have plastic plunged into every pore of your body, and especially your breast, your butt, your mouth. That is the standard. So they're always trying to create a standard to which you adhere to, whether it be I was in the era of the anorexia, right? So that was a Kate Moss, when I was a teenager, and now it's the plastics. Welcome to the plastics. So it changes, but it's still inverted. Back then inverted, now inverted. And you think about what they're doing to the children in schools. They are literally planting inversions in their heart, mind, body, and soul. They're distorting their consciousness. They're polluting them. And on and on and on, and people become so accustomed to it that they start to defend it. They defend these inversions. Well, blah, 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 blah. Whatever they say, it's because they already are programmed. These programs are actively activating within people, and people that have never taken time to be self-reflective, never taken time to themselves, question anything. They are victims of the inversion, but unfortunately, they are no longer victims. They're perpetrators of this inversion, and that's They are perpetrators of the inversion.
Right. Thank you for saying that. You know, I didn't even think to say that, and that's so true. Wow. Yeah, and you know, when you think about like even things in the medical industry, you know, people who are suffering or having some real issues, you know, PTSD, depression, and you know, body dysmorphia, whatever, and it's okay. Like I get it. You're going through something. You need the support, but some of these medications, I mean, it's like going too far, even down to birth control. I was watching, I don't know all the facts and the details, but I was watching something today that actually spoke on a statistic about when women come off birth control. There was actually a high number of women who would go back and forth about whether they were bisexual or if they were into men because their hormones were so out of whack. And it was like a full on statistic about birth control. So it's changing people's like physical, like their bodies and their mind to think a different that. And yeah, it gets really interesting the more you open your mind. And it's not about saying you're wrong, I'm right. It's about saying what is the truth. Like let's really dive into this. And sometimes it takes time to uncover things. And it's, you know, like we make mistakes. Okay, I'm not gonna, you know, eat this anymore. I'm not gonna subject myself to this anymore. And it's okay to change things up and own up to, you know, the truth and say, this is what I found out. And if somebody is going to blacklist you or delete you because you have an opposing view, then that is not true freedom. That is completely control. And I am going to override you kind of attitude. That is true narcissistic behavior, psychopath, whatever you want to call it. Yeah. So it's interesting topic.
Well, you think about, I mean, we are going to talk about this another time, but they've inverted food so that they put a chemical in it called atrazine. And I'm not going to say much about it, except that it turns frogs gay, literally. So every single thing that we have going in our life can be manipulated if you don't have some kind of an understanding of self-protection, of self-love, as far as, you know what, I'm gonna read my ingredients. You know what, I'm going to research this. You know what, I'm not just gonna say blindly like yes, 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 if the consumers are the ones who are attacked. And so it's just, yeah, it's so inverted that we could go on and on about this. But what I do want to say is that, and by the way, there's nothing wrong with being gay. That's not the point. But I'm just saying that there are chemicals that can alter our sexuality. Basically, right. we are weaponized. Our sexuality has been weaponized, and you know, and so yeah. there are many things that I'd like to say that the world's not ready for. So all I will say is that we do live in an inverted world. There are people that relish in this inversion, but unfortunately, they will also fall with it because the inversion is falling. So sadly, they think that they're at the height of their power and now it's their time, blah blah blah. And meantime, their time, there's a time bomb ticking inside of them, and it leads to death. So the inversion, being a fool to the inversion, is deadly. It's deadly. And I say that I have to laugh because it's so ridiculous. It's so ridiculous. And you know, like, do I cry or do I laugh? I'd rather laugh.
Right. I know. There's just times where I'm just like, I don't even know how to respond, but it's like my body's way of releasing like the overwhelming, like, what the, you know.
there's some comedy.
Like, whoa.
Like, they think they're so inverted that they think that they're on top of it, that they think that they're so righteous, and then boom, they're dead. And guess what? I mean, I've witnessed that, and I've seen them on the other side, and their souls are now caught. They're caught because if you go down the path of inversion, your soul now belongs to the inverted, even on the other side. And so, even on a soul level, you're not free. You're not free. And for me, I'd rather be free. I want freedom. I want freedom in life, and I want freedom in death,
Right.
because my soul wants to rise. I have a desire to rise. And that may not be everyone's calling. Sometimes people do have to live out these timelines in order to understand on the deepest soul level, from that experience of being a prisoner in the afterlife, that, wow, maybe I shouldn't have gone down that path. Maybe, wow, I did fall for all of this. I never questioned anything. And here I am, trapped. And there have been people that have died and come back and talked about this, So I know that there's a group that thinks they can override death, but the truth is you can't, because what I talked about earlier, the black hole, it's the great levelizer, and it levelizes everybody and everything. And those that thought they could live forever and have eternal life on earth will soon find that that's just not the case, because there's a greater nature called divine Shakti, the force of Shakti. And so it humbles us, and I think being humble is very important. Be humble enough to open your mind, be humble enough to open your heart, and to be open to new ideas and suggestions that are not inverted.
Right. And as you're talking, I'm thinking to myself, it's good to be simple, because the truth is, simple actually will bring you closer to magic, because you're tuning into the divine, you're tuning into creator, and you're becoming more of a co-creator. And then it brings in so much beauty and abundance to those who are in that frequency, that you don't even feel like you're simple, So I just want to leave everybody on a positive note. I'm not saying, I would like to send a message of empowerment, and just awareness, like maybe, look a little bit more into this. And anytime you hear us talk about inversion, now you're going to know, generally speaking, what we're referring to. And yeah, is there anything else you want to touch on, Radha? Because I know that we're going a little bit over.
Absolutely. I would say research Atlantis, because Atlantis was a real civilization. And unfortunately, they got bored, right? They got bored, so they turned to inversion. And that inversion led to the downfall of an entire society. And that's kind of where we're headed to some degree. But on a high note, the darker it gets, the more you can ascend. On a brighter note, the darker the world gets, the more darkness, the more that the dark is surfacing, the more light and the more possibility of ascension that you can access. This is also a portal and an access point. And I want to leave you on a high note by saying, never give up. Never give up. Wherever you are in your journey, whatever you've been through, how much inversion you've experienced and you've been indoctrinated into, you can shift in a second, in a moment that you choose. You can shift, and you can completely change your timeline, and you can choose to rise and really rise, because it's kind of like the scales. The darker it gets, the more opportunity. Like, this is the time where masters are born. Where diamonds are created. The crushing effect of this energy, of these times we live in, brings out the greatest light in people. Be one of those people and activate your light. Be one of those people and don't be crushed by the dark. Be illuminated. Activate your light and rise, rise, rise. You have permission in this lifetime, and you can excel, and you can bypass lifetimes, of the old karmic paradigm where we had to wait and wait for our lessons. Right now, karma is going so fast that we can burn through, in one day, we could burn through one lifetime if we choose to. We can work through it. So take every ounce of your energy and put it towards your path of ascension and your own divinity. trust and believe in yourself and know you can rise above all this insanity, all of this distortion, all of these inversions. You can rise even higher simply because the darkness is getting darker and the light in turn is also getting lighter.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Radha. This has been absolutely amazing. I can't thank you enough.
Thank you so much for tuning in, everyone. Until next time, bye for now.